Welcome guys to a new video on Team Crushing the Meta. Today we have a new deck for you guys and it's Gear Chronicle. It's my premium take on the timely variant of it. As you may know, I have already showcased you guys a lot of deck profiles for this. Been through a lot of iterations and different metas with different options. I think now that this is a fine build for me. I would even want to say I want to play this in BRO. It was my first option at first, and when I first wanted to decide what do I bring to premium BRO, and there were two options. There was Vanguard and there was Timely, and I was like, okay, I want to play Timely. There's no question about it. I played in BSO, made top 16. Unfortunately, there was only a top 8, so didn't break it, of course, due to too much breaking where I just lost all my coin jets, but that's a totally different story. But I want to bring this to BRO for 2021. And unfortunately I didn't bring it. And the sole reason for it is it takes too long to set up your turn, too long to finish your opponent, and it's just because of the whole shuffle wounding. So I decided not to bring this deck, so I thought I'd just bring my Vanguard deck. It has more consistency, that doesn't matter for me. I just brought it because it shuffles less and I can play it in the time zone that we get for the matches, of course. So I decided to bring Vanguard and made top 3. So I became third place, really happy about it. And for now I will just showcase you guys my second option, which was Gear Chronicle, of course. I think it's a very solid list. I have been playtesting a lot, even more than Vanguard, I have to say, because I have so much experience with the deck. And hopefully I can give you guys some insights on it. I know I inspired Echo about my deck list. He gave some options from it, made some of his own. He didn't like certain other cards that I play. I will go into the ratios. I agree with him, but I have my different opinions about it, why I still play them even though they're less optimal. That's have to say. So for the profile we go just right through it. I will not cover every skill. I will highlight the skills that are important, or highlight certain parts of the skill that are important to know to understand the deck. For the rest, you may see my deck rights here in my hand. They may be different sleeves. Like right here, I have here Groovy sleeves, and I have here Coinjet sleeves. Of course, that is due to this deck already. I want to play it in V Premium, in the V Premium tournament for BO. The moment that this is recorded is on Friday, and BO is on Saturday, so I have already prepped my deck. Alright, and I just want to have my high rarity to showcase you guys in my deck profile, so I just switched them around without changing the sleeves. So hopefully you guys don't mind. So it's just the same deck. For the starter, I play Cornerstone. It's a combo line deck, so you need your pieces to finish you with to let you keep the combo piece on your hand. So an extra drop from your starter plus the quick shoot that it provides is really helpful. Also, the fact that if you have your defensive hand, you want your pieces, so the other way around, still have line than the card, so we don't run any G starter because it's just suboptimal. Then we play one Timely Dragon. I think it's a very good and generic card. It's a fine addition to the deck. In the best meta with Tempestry, it enables us to search out other cards that doesn't cost any counter blast, and with that we can combo right through it, even though we don't have a counter blast. Now it serves a different option where it can just bring aggro to the board. It gives us the second force marker, because now the second force marker matters more because we go more into a strike turn. So if we go into strike turns, we rather want to have that second force marker set up. Back then it was the killer of the deck, so it just serves the different purpose. Same skill, same generic skill, really powerful card. Then I think for the weakest card of the deck, I think it's the first option I want to cut if I have something more powerful to play. That's the one next stage. I think the one next stage is fine. It's a good card all around, because it just gives you extra flexibility in what you want to do. But it doesn't work on your first grade 3 turn, because it's restricted to your opponent being grade 3 or greater. So suboptimal card in that, but you can still play around it, have different options. So that's just how it serves. It's a great form, and that will become important later into the deck profile. So that's around it, and you can just combo it with your strikes. Then I play one Piano Boy. I just call it always Piano Boy. It's something like a Very March Colossus or something like that, or a mellow Amusement Colossus. Okay, also a fine card. fight card name right. But I call Piano Boy. He's just the killer of the deck. When you go into your massive turn where you do a lot of shenanigans, lots of time, leave lots of multi-tech, he enables you to have a battle door effect for the entire turn. You only want to play about one because you only need it for that single turn, but it's just fine to have him right there. For the rest, he is just a dead card. It's an extra 3. You don't want to write. It's really important that you don't write it, but sometimes you just have to, and he's just like, hi, hello, what are you doing? 4 of the bush unit. So this is your main grade 3. This is the card you want to ride on, you want to stay on, everything like that. And there's Coinjet. So why do we play Coinjet? Because there are other cards that have the same type of skill where you can ride into grade 4. You have of course the Lost Legend, and you have of course the Chronotooth. Not Chronotooth, Chronofang, I mean the one that's pictured right here. And the sole reason for me is it has the name Coinjet, which is really important for our strides, for our G-guards. And that's everything we need. Also for the next stage I showed you earlier, because otherwise you cannot really play next stage, which is not that big of a deal. Also it has the best skill out of them, that a second skill, because Lost Legend gets a extra card for Counter Blast 2, which is rather heavy in the premium format, because the Counter Blast is equal to 1 extra attack, 1 extra card draw, mostly. But Coinjet just has that Sentinel 6, which can be useful in some situations. Also for the fact that you have the name consistency, so skills that you want to use go off. Otherwise, in the old deck where we didn't have Chronojet yet, what I decided to play was Chronojet with an old Chronojet Chi, and then I played Lost Legend. So I first wrote into Lost Legend, used the skill, everything like that. Then I went into Chronojet during my stride turns. Then I grabbed a Chronojet from my deck, and the next time I needed to write Chronojet. But now, since we have the V version, of course, we don't need to do that anymore, and we have the consistency to boost that up. So just 4 copies, also really solid rearguard skill, because the second skill is also for rearguard. Then we come to a controversial card that I really like since the beginning, since it came out, and not many people like it anymore. That's the 4 not the Chronotooth, it's the 4 Aircap. And I personally play it because it's a good write-up. It brings you some possibilities, because this deck is combo reliant. You need your combo pieces, so if you can fix your hand a little bit just by gaining this 1 extra train drive and discarding card, it's worth to counter blast. Also you can plus off it, because you have many cards that when you discard them, you draw a card, put them onto the field, everything like that. And you bring extra pressure in the form of drive chain. But later in the stage, later into the game, you don't want to do it. You want to enter stride and you want to have your combo piece already set up. Then it's a dead card, so you can just discard it for stride, because it's discarded as a grade 3. Works for that. Also works for the consistency of Chronojet, because Chronojet needs you to discard the sum of grade 3. Helps with that. You have also other cards that want to discard certain grades, the sum of grade 3, so you can use it with that. So even though it's a dead card later in the stage, later on in the grade 2 game of course, it's still a nice card to have, because you can just discard it away for other purposes, other value cards, and with that it brings consistency to the deck. So that's why I play it at 4 copies. 1 is for the write up, so you have a higher chance to write into it, and the other side is that you have just the right consistency to discard the certain grades you want, and that's why he is in the deck. You don't really have any other grade 2s that are really helpful. Yeah, of course you can play Naboo for the early aggressiveness, but I like this style of iteration because it helps me with my win condition. And it's just how I built the deck. Then I play 4 copies of History Maker Dragon. This is a card you need on your strike turns. Like, this is just insane. It's just counter plus 1 on attack, and you can time leap a unit. So it brings 1 extra attack, so it's just like Speaker in that regard. All the other cards, only thing is it doesn't need to be boosted, so it can just be a solo attacker for 9k, with the strikes against extra power maybe, so it can solo swing. I don't like it as form, and that's because it's a GR card and it works slow. Back in the day with Tempestrphere, if your opponent gives you 2 counter blasts, you could just end the game instantly on grade 2. Now it isn't like that anymore, but still we need it for strike turns, and we want to have the consistency to boost that up. So I just played it 4 copies, playing less of that makes your late game really weak in some cards if you're a bit unlucky, and you need it on your first strike turn to even set up a good hand and a good multi-attack scenario. Then I play 1 Dudu, and she is a great card. So what she essentially says is, when you have discarded for your turn, the column she's in both gain 5k, so the unit in behind her of course, and herself gain 5k, so 10k to the column. And you can abuse this when you go into your multi-attack turns, because you can just put this into the back row and the unit in front of it constantly gains 5k. So even if you call new cards, since it's a continuous skill, gains 5k, gains 5k, it can push through defense triggers. So that's why we play one copy of it. Also during your time leap turn, you can go into this, so this will be like a 10 on itself, then plus a marker 20, plus the skill of time leap per 30, and then on herself, because she gains 5k, 35, which is a big number and gives your opponent a lot of pressure to deal with. The only thing is you want to have it during that turn, so we only play it as one copy because you can just search it off a time leaper, but we also have a different card that can just search out, and that's this card. This is the promo. Also, of course, you can just time leap it out, but it's less effective if you only have one time leap going around each single turn. If you go into your second or third stride, which is not that likely, you can also search it out by just binding grade 1 from your field, but that's another different topic. I play this one copy. It essentially is the same as Zayed. Zayed essentially says Soul Blast 1, discard a card and draw, and then retire something from your opponent with great restrictions, of course. But you discarded most likely a card that could be called from when discarded, so you made 5 attacks during your time leap turn. So for people that don't know the interaction, you of course have your time leaper dragon, and what essentially that did is, if this were to be a side jet, you had this on the Vanguard circle, so you attacked with the both front row units, then you use time leaper, called one unit out of your deck, which will be a grade 2. This will be Zayed, and Zayed called the unit that could be discarded and called again. So you made 5 attacks. But this also has the same purpose, but you don't need to have the specific card on hand, only it costs a counter plus extra. And that's not that bad. Back in the day, people were damage denying us because they don't want you to give that second counter plus. No way in hell they will do that. But now they do, because they think, okay, Chronicle is a bad deck in the game, and that is true to an extent. But with this, what you can do is just call it off time leap, of course. Then this will be at 20k, because then it can still hit the defense trigger of your opponent, and it will be calling out a Dudu. Dudu will be on the force mark because she will be 25, magic numbers once again, because 25 is a better number than 20, and you can of course put this in the 30k column, and then this will be only 15, but that's a worse scenario because of Hue Guardians. Opponents can only guard for like 25 at most. Yeah, of course they will be promoted to 35, and then this still costs a 10k shield, which is quite a lot. But yeah, this can search that out directly. You don't need to have a specific card to discard for it, but it also has different purposes that it can send the grade 1 back from your opponent, which also Zayed will do. But this works more generic for me. It can search out any card, so since you're a combo reliant deck, it can search out your Malum, it can search out your History Maker, just any card you need. And that's why this card shines for me. So I play it as a one-off because of just when you go first, you can put up the Resonant on your grade 2 turn, or you can just use it when you go in your time leaper turn, where you just have 5 extra attacks. Then I play 4 copies of Chronotooth. He is your grade 1 that you just want to discard for shield value after you have rolled him once, because he can just draw an extra card during your draw phase, or at the beginning of your fight phase for me. And that makes it so it gives you extra consistency as a combat deck, so you need the cards in hand. After that, you don't really want to use that counter blast to call him and draw. Yes, you want to use it if you're really pushed, if you're on high damage, you need to survive, you need the card draw you have, then this is an option. But I rather want to have it for the purpose that I have shield value in hand, because it's just a fat tanky shield, and that's why I really like it. It also brings just consistency to field. The card that we just want to discard is of course the Ripple. Gives us the option to make multi-attacks, just gives us the option of course to gain 3 card advantage to put normal units back into the deck, since this deck is really reliant on having specific great units like History Maker, Malum into your deck. If they're in your drop zone, this is the way to recycle them. You can just discard them as extra cards for your stride turns, because stride is just discard the sum of grade 3 or more. It doesn't say only grade 3s. So what you just do is discard as an extra card for stride, use her effect, Soul Blast 1, call her, have a nice 30k booster for your combo turns, and then draw a card. So the card you extra discarded, you drew back, and you have a body on the field that sends back cards to your deck. So I really like it. Also, it's a really cool combo during your grade 2 turn with Aircraft, because for counter with Sobres, you draw an extra card, gain a card on the field, and filter your hand a little bit. So you effectively search through the top 2 cards of your deck, which is really important for this deck because, as I said, it's a combo deck. And of course it brings more to the table because it gives us a little bit of aggressiveness on the grade 2 turn. It's not much, it's not the best, but of course it's just better than nothing. Then for the start of this deck, I only play 3 cards, so this is one of the most important cards of the deck, and I will play 3. And that's a little bit weird, but that's just because this is a starter card. So if people have played Yu-Gi-Oh, you have starter cards, you need those cards in your hand to start your combo of it. Melon is this card, but we don't play 3 copies of it, no. We play essentially 6 copies of it, and it will be going into the trigger zone, where I will just explain everything else. So keep this in mind, we play 6 starters, but only 3 of those are Melon that we play in the main deck for not triggers. Then for the card that keeps up the consistency of this deck, we play 5 grade 3s, we don't want to write 1, so we effectively only have 1 sword. And that's why we play Gear Dog 8. So here's the card that you play next stage for. Next stage in history, our Time Leaper and Godless, of course, you can just reveal them for this card's effect. Search out the Chrono Jet and discard the Aircraft. So the excess amounts of Aircraft you can essentially turn into Chrono Jet. You can search your excess amount of next stage Time Leaper that you don't want on your hand into Chrono Jet, but also of course for the heal card. The heal cards are now grade 3s, and that's really important for your surviving turn, of course, because you rather want to have G cards in some matchups in your hand than try to heal them out, of course. Because if you're, let's say for example, playing against Leward, you rather want to have those G cards in your hand to survive attacks, to put Doctor's bottom deck with your G cards, of course, then try to heal them out. Yes, defense triggers are nice, but it's not the way how you try to win the game. So this is just a way to put G cards into your hand, and it's just a very consistent card. I wish I could play 4 of this card, but 3 is all I have space for, and I think it's a fine option, because if I play less next stages, for example, I said next stage is the weaker link of this deck, I can just play 1 extra copy of this card. That means that his consistency will go down because I cannot reveal a grade 3 or higher from my hand as much as I did. So by playing less less next stage and 1 increase of this, it doesn't help all that much. So I rather want to have the flexibility of having next stage in my deck to make certain other combos. Then we go for the as you may have known or may have counted, I don't think so you did, because I would never do it on the deck profile. Like if you counted, you missed 2 cards, and that's of course because I will be playing 2 TikTok workers, the essential for your combo. Always have played them at 1, 2, 3 copies. I will just play now 2 just for the meta. I just only need 2. That's really about it. The card that you will send most likely back with your Wibble. Then where I came back from Melon, and that's Ubertar. Ubertar is essentially another side of the deck. It's how the Time Leap deck functions with Melon, Ubertar, History Maker. You can just combo them off. And why I say I play 3 Melon and 6 starters is because this is essentially an extra Melon. And how it works is like, keep in your mind, Melon attacks the Vanguard. She uses skill, grabs a great sword, which is Ubertar. Then you Time Leap the Ubertar into a Melon. So you can do 2 attacks, and both need to go to the Vanguard circle, of course. Like attack the Vanguard. But what if I say that if you start with Ubertar, just start with an Ubertar on your force marker. You attack into a Vanguard or rearguard, since it's not needed to attack a rearguard or a Vanguard for its skill. Then you Time Leap it into a Melon. Melon goes into an Ubertar, and you're on the same scenario where you have been, or like Ubertar goes into Melon, Melon goes into Ubertar. So you do 2 attacks, 1 from the first Ubertar, second from Melon, of course. So for both combos where you started with the Melon or an Ubertar, you used 1 Time Leap skill from any other source, TikTok Worker, History Build, History Maker, and you did 2 attacks, and you ended with the same exact scenario where you ended up with a Melon or an Ubertar. I mean, sorry, a little bit confusing. If you play this deck a lot, you know what I'm talking about. But what helps with this combo is that on the first attack you don't need to attack the Vanguard, because Melons can only procs when you attack the Vanguard force, with her of course. Yes, the attack is a little bit weaker, but it's better to actually attack a rearguard, gain 5k shield out of it, and for the second attack attacks the Vanguard, because if your opponent got a defensive trigger on his first attack, then the second melon wouldn't hit anyway because it's 21k. So in that scenario, it's even better to sometimes start with this card than start with Melon, and that's why we play 3 copies of this, 3 copies of Melon, because it's essentially the same card for me. I think even it's better to open with an Overcharge sometimes than open with Melon. So that's just how I personally play it. Also something I didn't really clarify, which I am thinking right about now. Melon of course is 21 on herself, and because we play the Doodoo, which is the grade 2, I will just be grabbing right now. What I said about this card is it gains 5k of course in the column. So with these two types of cards, it essentially boosts them up to a very nice number. With Melon in front of it, it will become 26, so it can hit past the defense trigger, and that's why we play 1 copy of this. This would only be a 19, so if you crash it into a grade 2, that's 9k, it's a nice number, but sometimes you even crash this into the Vanguard, and then just as a, instead of 5k shield, it's 10k shield. So it's up for your own opinion what to do, and you just need to play this deck a lot to understand it, but still a nice combo. I play 4 of the Stride kit. You can also play the Premium Collection kit from 2019 that goes into the Soul. Both are fine. There's no real distinguishment between them. I just like consistency because I want to get the most out of my Chrono Jets on my Vanguard circle to have more markers. That's why I play 4 of it. You don't really need to crit into the Soul crit because it's late into your combo. Yes, you gain a little bit more of Soul, but you will only play 1 or 2 copies at most because you still want to have the Stride kit in your deck. Then I have 4 of the PG. 4 of the PG is just fine. You need to draw triggers for consistency, and just having PG is overall better in this format. 4 heal cards, I've already talked about them. Main staple in any tank, in any deck, I think. Data Grade 3 is a very good luxury for this deck because you can of course use it with Gridlock Hate, or even if you need to discard them for your Chrono Jet turn, then it can be discarded as Grade 3 of course. So you can go into Time Leaper if you're really breaking, not ideal, but it's an option. And I play the Quick Element Overtrigger. I really played the Dark Sage Overtrigger for a very long time. Unfortunately, I don't play it anymore in my opinion deck, just because for a view turn, I would always choose this above the Dark Sage. It's only I was playing the Dark Sage Overtrigger for because of the speed. That's my sole reason. I just like it for that. But this one is better because you're a Vanguard line deck, and with a Vanguard line deck, you need more. You get more out of the 2 instances for 100 million. Then of course out of the Dark Sage Overtrigger, in my opinion, because this can end your turn immediately if your opponent is already on high counter damage. Dark Sage Overtrigger, not that really if they just beat your Vanguard. Okay, then for the G-Zone, I play 3 copies of History Build Dragon. Gives all units on Time Leap power, is your best first stride and best second to third stride with other iterations of course. You have probably seen this a lot of times already, so nothing really to set them down. 2 next stages, just a nice reasonable Vanguard. Yes, of course you play already next stage in your main deck, but the main deck you need to go to a lot of hoops to use it, but this is just a nice iteration that you have it in your G-Zone, so you have better access to it. 2 Ragnarok Dragon, surprise your opponent quite a bit if you use it in the right matchups, can finish the game on itself. Yeah, nothing really said and done about it. It's just a very standard G-Zone up to this part because 2 Gear Wolfie copies any Gear Dragon, 2 Gear Dragons from G-Zone and use them. For Ragnarok Dragon, it's because we play next stage that we play this card, because with Time Leaper it doesn't really synergize with it, but it's just extra flexibility. For the G-Guards, after 2 Hedra Hounds to disrupt your opponent's place. That's why we want to have more G-Guards or heals in our hand with Gearlock 8 to use fetch him from the G-Zone of course during opponents to disrupt them. 1 Uluru to send cards back from your drop zone back to the deck. can send over triggers back, can send anything back, and just helps you have your combo pieces back in the deck, because you grab cards from your deck of course and not from field, hand or any other thing. So having them in deck is very important. Warfana, very big shield value for what she does. Also gives you a grade 0 on the field, so you can open your next turn with a better combo piece. But let's say for example you don't want to have card draw, you can just call out the TikTok worker for your next turn if you already have, let's say for example, an extra mana or an extra history maker on hand, so you can combo fight like that. So just send back a rebel, grab anything, any grade 0. Then one Padron Chimera. This is a little bit for the end of game matchup, because with this you can just screw them over a little bit by sending back a backward record circle. Yes, they can choose, but because of that they sometimes can't fulfill the conditions from okay if they don't play around this. And then I would play one Bearlock, new G-Guard, very powerful, can gain a lot of shield, like bind your Urbortouch during your opponent's turn, so with that helps you quite much. So hopefully you guys enjoy this type of deck profile. Comment down below if you have any questions, and I hope to see you guys in a later video. Goodbye.